Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. Call into session this meeting of the Wayne County Ethics Board. We're going to proceed to our roll call. Before we start our roll call on our agenda, I just want to welcome to the board Mr. David Domzo. Mr. Domzo has agreed to sort of step in and fulfill the duties of Mr. Avery Williams in his absence. Some of us know that Mr. Williams is undergoing some medical challenges at this time. And so Mr. Domzo is stepping in and taking over some of his duties. I just want to thank Mr. Domzo for stepping in at this short time and also just welcome him to the board. With that said, I'm going to move on to our roll call. Item A of our agenda is the roll call. Ms. Kangura, I'm going to turn over to you. Kangura, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Each member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and that they are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Thomas? Mr. Schaefer? I see him on the line. Mr. Schaefer? Okay, I'll come back to him. Ms. Lewis?
Present.
Ms. Hammoud? Dr. Carnell has requested an excuse. Chair Pinkins?
I'm present.
And Mr. Schaefer, can you hear us? Oh, and I believe Mr. Thomas is logging on right now.
Okay.
Apologize.
And Ms. Kangura, we're going to keep the roll call open until we can get a quorum.
Okay. Oh, I see Mr. Schaefer is drawing on the screen, it looks like.
Oh, at least we know he's present.
Mr. Thomas, can you hear us? Are you present as well?
Ms. Kangura, if he marks an X in the box, does that mark as present to roll call purposes? I mean, obviously the chair is joking at this point.
Chair, should I go through the roll one more time just to make sure we have everybody?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Young?
I'm present. And let me just add, Mr. Chairman, I had to redo this 3 times before I got the audio connection. So if Mr. Johnson and Mr. Schaefer is having that problem, they might want to try that. I couldn't get communication either. Just a note.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Young. Why don't we give them a few minutes before we do the roll call again? Why don't we give them a few minutes so they can log in?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, no. Oh, he's here. Okay. Okay. Ms. Kangura, I think he's here now. I think he's logged on.
Okay.
I've logged on telephonically. Let me hang the phone up. I may have it on my iPad now.
Mute and share video. I think I just did it.
Yes, Mr. Thomas, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize. I don't know why I had trouble getting in this morning. That's the first time that's happened to me. I apologize.
Can you hear me now?
No problem. We can hear you.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Chair Pinkins, should I go through the roll one more time just for procedural purposes?
Yes, please.
Okay. Each member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and that they are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Thomas?
Present.
Mr. Schaefer?
Present.
Ms. Lewis?
Present.
Ms. Hammoud? Dr. Carnell has requested an excuse, and Chair Pinkins.
I'm present.
You have a quorum.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Kangura. All right, moving right along on our agenda for our meeting today. Letter B is approval of the May 19, 2021 and the June 16, 2021 meeting minutes. I believe everyone has received a copy of the meeting minutes from the May 19th and the June 16 meeting minutes. From the May 19th and the June 16 meeting. If anyone hasn't received a copy, please let us know at this time. And is there a motion to adopt the meeting minutes for both meetings?
I'll make that motion, sir.
Is there a second? Before we move to a vote on the adoption, the chair just wants to note that from the June 16, 2021 meeting, and the chair apologizes, this should have made it to our agenda for today. I did sort of overlook this, but there was a motion made and it was tabled to the next item, to the next meeting, which would have been today. That should have been under our unfinished business for today. I'm gonna see if we can move that item over to our agenda for today, since it was tabled from the last meeting to this meeting. I think it was a motion made by Mr. Thomas and Ms. Hammoud. So we'll put it on the agenda for today. We can sort of pencil that in or something for our agenda under unfinished business for today. So getting back to the motions that was moved and seconded. Is there all in favor of adopting the meeting minutes from the May 19th and the June 16, 2021 meeting? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is carried. So moved. Moving on to item C of our unfinished business. We have a complaint from Kimberly Robleski. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrect. It's a complaint regarding Wayne County Sheriff Office employee. I believe everyone has had the opportunity to review the complaint from Ms. Robleski. If anyone hasn't received the complaint, please let us know at this time. Mr. Domzo, have you had the opportunity to take a look at this complaint from Ms. Robleski?
Yes, I have, and I also I reviewed Avery's memo. Looks like it was dated June 14th, and basically, and I concur obviously with Avery's analysis. I think he basically made two recommendations in this to the board. I think one was a referral to the prosecutor's office for further investigation, and I think the other one was a response to the complainant to request additional specificity, specifically to reference where how the allegations fit within the within the ordinance. It appears to me that there may be, it's a little hard to tell based upon what we have right now. It may be an allegation of improper use of the process, which is covered by the ordinance. If a county employee uses the legal procedures improperly to harass, or that appears to be, at least part of the nature. So those are really the two recommendations I think that have been made that we'd ask the board to consider.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, the first recommendation is to possibly refer the matter to the prosecutor's office for more sufficient evidence to assert a criminal investigation or a criminal violation in light of the circumstances surrounding this complaint. And then the second recommendation is the complaint to require further investigation. Is that correct?
Yes, to contact the complainant and ask for further specificity, and specifically to complete the complaint form and to make sure that that is completed in its entirety.
Okay. Well, at this time, the question is, this chair is going to open this up to some discussion based on your recommendations, and that's the board members. One matter I would ask, the chair would ask, is just so the recommendation to refer the matter to the prosecutor's office. That's one recommendation, but then there's a recommendation to do further investigation into the complaint itself. So which one should it be? Because if we refer it to the prosecutor's office, then it's out of our hands. Then we can't do any further investigation. If we further investigate it, then we're opting, I would assume, to keep the complaint until we finish the investigation. Am I correct in saying that, Mr. Domzo? Or?
Yeah, I think probably the sequence would be to first contact, I would suggest the prosecutor's office to have it, to have it reviewed there. And I think based upon what's decided there, I think then the board can just, better decide exactly. It may not, you're right, it may not even be necessary to continue to investigate if the prosecutor decides to take action. So yeah, I would sequence it in the order of contacting the prosecutor's office first.
Okay. All right, any questions from any board members at this time? For Mr. Domzo?
I have none. I agree with that. I agree with Mr. Domzo's analysis, however.
Mr. Chairman, does
Yes,
that,
Mr. Young.
yes, does our time constraints, is that impacted by the delay that would be required to await a recommendation or a decision, I should say, from the prosecutor's office? Or, excuse me, this phone is ringing here. Or would the time limits be stayed while that occurs, or what? Do we have an idea on that?
That's a good question. Mr. Domzo, do you have any idea on that? There's a time limit with respect to the filing of the complaint up to the point where the complaint has to be actually heard. Would that matter be stayed while we either contact the prosecutor's office to see if this is a potential criminal violation, or to even do any further investigatory work on this complaint? Would the matter be stayed during that time? Would it sort of would that toll the time period?
I'm not sure that it, I think the answer is yes. I don't know that I'd necessarily classify it as being stayed. I think to the extent that we don't have a complete application in front of us, a completed complaint, I think the clock, in a sense, really isn't even running. But I think, getting beyond the legalities, I think the complainant is entitled to know where things stand, and to the extent that the matter would be referred to the prosecutor's office, I think a communication should be made to her to let her know kind of where the process stands, and that the board may or may not further investigate depending on the results of that investigation. So at least the complainant understands where she stands in the process.
Okay. All right. So for the first recommendation to refer this matter to the prosecutor's office to find out if there's sufficient evidence to assert a criminal violation, I would assume we'll vote on that matter first. So we'll put that matter before the board first. To see if there's a motion, and then the next matter, if this comes back as no possible criminal violation, then there'll be a next recommendation to do further investigatory work into the complaint to see if it, I'm assuming, comes within the ordinance, if there's any violations asserted within this complaint. With respect to the first recommendation, is there a motion to adopt the recommendation? The question is to refer this matter to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for them to see if there's evidence, sufficient evidence for a possible criminal violation surrounding this complaint. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation?
Mr. Pinkins, may I ask Mr. Domzo a question?
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Domzo, I just am sitting here and I'm looking over the memo that we received concerning the approach that we should take with the complainant. I'm really wondering why we would be referring the matter to the prosecutor's office as opposed to advising our complainant to go to the prosecutor's office and give them the phone number and the contact who she should contact over there. I mean, I'm not certain when we refer it over there, what are we going to tell the prosecutor's office in the letter? Are we going to say, oh, well, we're concerned about this. We feel she should get a fair investigation of it. What do we tell them when we do that? I need to know that before we make the referral. I don't even know what the prosecutor's office is going to do with it. Quite candidly, I don't. So could you help me with that a little bit? Why wouldn't we be telling her to go there? And then if we're going to send it there, what are we going to tell them in the letter that we send?
Mr. Donaldson.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the question is whether or not there's been any, criminal conduct. I mean, that's really what we're trying to make a determination. I understand your point. I guess to the extent the matter, I guess there's two questions. I guess should a review take place in the prosecutor's office of the allegations, to determine if the prosecutor should take further action, and then secondly, if so, then who should make the referral. I guess I kind of defers to Avery's analysis on this. I think his recommendation was for the board itself to do that. I guess it shows I don't know at the end of the day whether the practical effect is any different. I think the letter, if it were referred, would be to just indicate that, in so many words that we're not sure exactly, if we have jurisdiction over this, but there are some allegations that we're passing on to you. I'm not hung up on the formalities of whether that letter goes through us or we ask the complainant to contact the prosecutor's office directly. I'm not sure that there's much distinction between the two, but I think the main issue in my mind would be, do we want the prosecutor's office to do the review, or at least have the opportunity if presented with the material?
Well, if I may comment on this, the complainant came to the ethics board to seek advice and an investigation into her problem. And my thought is that as the ethics board, we should assist her in seeking a resolution of whatever concerns that she has by referring it to the prosecutor's office. We've assisted the citizen of Wayne County in her quest to find out if there was some wrongful act done to her. So, and I agree with Mr. Domsel that it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but as long as we have it here, I would recommend that we take that path.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
I would like to ask.
Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lewis, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking of a different approach. If we have the complainant finish her complaint, then we complete our investigation, and based on our investigation, we refer it to the prosecutor. If we feel the need.
Okay.
Just some thoughts, just to complete our process.
So
And
it sounds like what you're saying, asking Ms. Lewis, is to adopt the second recommendation first, then to further the investigation. Then this, based on that investigation, then we'll know whether or not to go with the second recommendation, which would be to refer it to the prosecutor's office. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
Right. And I'm going to agree with also with Mr. Donzo and Mr. Schaefer. Chair would say that in years past, generally we've had these complaints come up, and if we found that it was a matter for the prosecutor's office, we did refer it to the prosecutor's office. My understanding is Mr. Williams had a contact person there that he sent it to directly. That way we weren't just sending complaints sort of blindly and not getting any sort of response from their office. So that way he could sort of follow up to see where the process was going, and that way keep that complainant aware of or abreast of what was taking place with their complaint at the prosecutor's office, whether or not they were going to deem it to be a criminal matter or not. So, and also I do believe that, as mentioned by Mr. Schaefer, that coming from this board as opposed to her going directly herself to the prosecutor's office, it probably would carry a little bit more weight if this board were to send it over there to her. I believe, as Mr. Schaefer mentioned, she came to this ethics board seeking some sort of resolution to this matter or some assistance. And by this board sending it to the prosecutor itself to review, I think it may have a little bit more weight than her doing it on her own. So with that said, it sounds like Ms. Kangura, can you turn off the comment section on the Zoom, please? Someone's making comments, and at this time, the board is speaking. It's somewhat disruptive to see the comments on the screen here.
Sorry, Chair Pinkins, this is Felicia, the attorney for the commission. That's me trying to alert you to something. My apologies. I just sent it to you only, I believe, but that was me.
Is that something for the board? Do you want me to discuss that with the board this time?
Well, there's a section in the ordinance that addresses the concern that you're discussing now, that talks about if there's something of a criminal nature, how it should immediately be forwarded to the prosecutor without an investigation of the board. So I was just trying to alert you to the section. My apologies for the interruption.
No, thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for chiming in and bringing that to the board certificate. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so with that said, Mr. Domzel, do you have an additional recommendation, or does your two recommendations stand?
I think the recommendations stand, and yes, there is ordinance language. Thank you for pointing that out. That does address that, and one of the if the board were to conduct a full hearing into this matter, I mean, one of the remedies set forth in the ordinance is to refer the matter to the prosecutor. I mean, that's so. Frankly, I think we're probably in terms of expediting justice, so to speak. I think maybe by referring it initially in the process, I think is going to speed it up, and I think it frankly will be a fairer process to the complainant.
Okay.
Mr. Domzel or Mr. Pinkins, could I ask for the section number that we were given regarding the ethics ordinance and it was just given regarding referrals to the criminal authorities?
Yes, Miss Johnson, are you still on the line?
I am. It is section 40.7C3. 40.7C3.
Well, this is the question that I have, and I don't know who I should ask the question to. So, Mr. Domzel, I'll direct you. This says if the allegations contained in the complaint appear to be of a criminal nature. We don't have a complaint here in front of us, and a concern that I would have would be whether this Ms. Roboleski would want us to refer it to the prosecutor's office. So those are my two concerns right off the bat. I think that I really believe that before referrals are made, we have to have some quantum of information or evidence in front of us that really leads us to believe that there may be a criminal matter involved. And when a complaint is filed, there are certain safeguards delineated in the ethics code. For example, it has to be signed under oath in front of a notary. So the person has that sobering impact of doing that. I honestly would have to say right now, Ms. Lewis, I think that Ms. Lewis's recommendation was really more on point. We don't have a complaint in front of us. It's deficient. We've been told in a memorandum that it's deficient. I'll go along with what the board wants to do, but I guess what I'm more concerned about when we take action like this, that kind of sets the pace for how we're going to decide similar issues in the future. So I think we've got to be consistent, and we have to do things in a very thought out fashion. If we're going to request that she file the complaint form in Mr. Domzel's letter to her, he could say, look, something to this effect, Mr. Pinkett. You haven't completed a complaint form. We want you to complete the complaint form. And oh, by the way, you have another right here. And the other right would be for you to bring this matter to the attention of the prosecutor's office. So I don't know. I'm really on the fence on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Is there any further comments?
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick here, I've.
Yes, Mr. Young.
Lewis had indicated earlier in processing it, I just want to ask this other question as we sort of work through this. I'm thinking historically, I don't remember of an incident, and I may be wrong on this, but I don't remember of an incident where we made a referral to the prosecutor's office under circumstances where we thought we would also keep the complaint or we would await a decision of the prosecutor's office. It seemed to me that in the past, when we looked at the complaint, we said this is not something for the ethics committee to review and should be reviewed by the prosecutor's office. So we send it there, and that is where it ended with us. Again, I might be wrong on that, but that's my recollection. And if you recall, the concern always was, well, gee, we'd like to hear back from them at some point to see if there was ever a decision made, not necessarily to charge, but if it had been resolved one way or another. I'm not sure that has happened. But what we're doing here, to Mr. Thomas's point, we're making a referral to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, which is a substantial action coming from the Wayne County Committee, and we don't even have a complete complaint form here, both from a procedural standpoint and apparently maybe from a substantive standpoint it might be there, but certainly Mr. Williams believed it was deficient. So I tend to lean in that direction, but I'm willing to listen. I don't want to slow down the process, but that's just sort of where I'm at right now.
Thank you for that, Mr. Young. And the chair is going to add too that Mr. Young is correct. Historically, most times, and as I recall, the complaints that we actually referred to the prosecutor's office actually were actual, as mentioned, complaints. But we don't have an actual complaint here. And also on their face, it actually indicated some criminal activity or something that warranted referral to the prosecutor's office. Again, as mentioned by Mr. Young, it appears as though we can actually investigate this matter further or refer it. And the chair is not aware of any other times that something like this has come up. We could either opt to keep something and continue to investigate it or refer it out. So with that said, is there any further comments on this matter? No.
Excuse
Yes,
me, can I, I'm Kim Robleski, I'm the complainant.
Yes, Ms. Robolewski, I didn't know you was on the line. Thank you for being
Yes,
here. Thank you
thank
for
you.
being
Good
here.
morning.
Yes, you have the floor, ma'am.
I did file the complaint form and it was notarized
You did.
and I did send it over.
Do we receive a copy of that, Ms. Kangura?
There should be, it should have been with the email when I originally sent it over.
One of the
wasn't-
questions, Ms. Robluski, one of the questions was whether or not, I guess two questions, whether the form was completed. And then secondly, in the completion of the form, did you make reference to the provisions of the ordinance which you feel were violated by the actions that you allege?
I wasn't sure which one to put it under. So did I write down section 40.7-C3? No, I did not. But I did put in there regarding that, you know, he lied under oath, that he, there was no investigation. He took the words from my ex-husband, who is a Detroit police officer. They claimed that I did not have access to a joint account and that the divorce papers clearly stated that he was awarded the account in the divorce. I attached the divorce papers where in the divorce papers, nothing is said about joint accounts. And I attached the bank statement that my ex-husband provided as evidence that my name was on it. And I provided the transcript of Sergeant Reinhardt when he spoke with Judge Zeleniak. I don't know if I said that correctly. Stating, you know, that those things were true. So then I was arrested and spent 5 days in Dickerson.
Yes.
The whole case was dismissed because it was a joint account.
Well, just for the record, I have a copy of a notarized signature of Mr. Robolewski dated
May
21st
21st.
of May 21st. And let me comment with regard to some of the discussions we've just had.
Yes, Mr. Schaefer.
I don't want to elevate form over substance. We have this citizen, Ms. Robolewski, who came to us seeking justice, for want of a better term, and advice as to whether she's been wronged. And the ordinance, I think Ms. Lewis, or the section of the Ethics Committee, gives us the authority to refer this to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. And I think that's really what our mission is here, is to resolve citizens' concerns of wrongdoing to them by whoever may be the wrongdoer. So I would think the proper path would be to refer it to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. If Ms. Robolewski wants to come back to us afterwards, if it does not resolve to her satisfaction, or if she has other concerns, she certainly has the right to do that. But I think at this point, with the information we have today, my recommendation would be to move it, would be to recommend or to send it to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office and let them process it. Because it sounds to me like it's more in that basket than in our basket, at least at this time.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Schaefer. Is there any further comments on this matter?
I would like to,
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
We received a memorandum from our legal counsel. And in the memorandum we received from our legal counsel, there was a statement indicating that the complaint form was not fully completed because the sections of the ethics code were not provided. If there is going to be a motion to refer the matter to the prosecutor's office, and if there is a signed complaint form, which I have not seen, I no reason to doubt what Mr. Schaefer said. We receive a lot of materials from the staff. If that exists, if there is a complaint form, I would support a motion to refer it. However, you have to take note of the fact that what we're referring over there, according to our own legal counsel, is not sufficient in terms of providing us a completed complaint form. So I would like to know, Mr. Schaefer, is your motion, if I could ask you, is your motion just to refer the matter to the prosecutor's office?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, all right, so, yeah, just sort of stepping back a little bit. Thank you for that, Mr. Thomas. So at this time, we didn't have any motions before the floor. We had some recommendations. But if we have a motion now, we have actually two recommendations. So one recommendation is to refer the matter to the prosecutor's office. Another recommendation is to retain the matter for further investigation. So the chair is going to open it up for those motions. And I believe we have a motion now to refer the matter to the prosecutor's office. Is there a second? I believe, is that seconded?
I attempted to second it. I thought I did.
Okay, you did second it then, Mr. Thomas. Thank you for that. So at this point, Mr. Schaefer, you made the motion. Do you want any further discussion on the motion?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we're going to put that matter to a vote then. All in favor of the motion to refer the matter to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed, indicate by saying no. Okay, it seems as though the ayes have it. So the motion is carried and the matter is adopted to send this matter over to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Okay. And Mr. Domza, I'm assuming that you're going to follow this matter and follow this matter with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office so that we can give Ms. Robolewski some sort of feedback on where they are over over time with this matter? If she has some resolution.
Yes, we will follow up on that immediately. Yes.
Great. Thank you, sir. Mr. Roboleski, I apologize again for mispronouncing your name. Again, we appreciate you being here. Thank you for giving us some sort of clarification into some of the areas that we needed clarification on. All right, moving on to the next item of business. On the unfinished business, now the chair is gonna deviate a little bit here because we do have the tabled matter from the last meeting. And again, that should have been on our agenda under unfinished business.
Chair Pinkins, the
Yes.
tabled matter was the complaint from Ms. Roboleski.
Oh, that was the complaint?
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So actually it should have been a motion to take this from the table. But since we've already ruled on it, the motion carried, we're gonna move forward then.
Mr.
right.
Thank you.
Pinkins,
Yes,
Mr. Pinkins, could
Mr.
I ask
Thomas.
a question, sir?
Sure, Mr. Thomas.
What I don't understand is in the memo that we received from Mr. Avery Williams' office, there is discussion that the complaint form is not complete and it's not completed. And there was contemplation of sending a letter. Mr. Domzel, am I correct on that point or am I wrong? Sending her a letter to ask her to complete the form citing the sections and the rules that she believes were violated.
Yes, I think some, even though the complainant was on the call here, I'm not sure if she still is, but
I
think
am.
okay, I think documentation to you, a letter to you, Ms. Roboleski, confirming the action that's been taken and just reminding you, if you will, that you do have the right at any time to complete the application by completing the, making reference to the ordinance, what you're, and then we'll have that on file, and depending on what the prosecutor's office does or what doesn't do, I think it will save time for the board, if it does come back into their bailiwick.
Absolutely. I will fill out a new one and have it notarized today, and I can either email it over to you or I can email it to the ethics board, how I originally did.
Well, Mr. Domzel, I think what Ms. Roboleski has to do is she has to cite the sections of the ordinance that she believes was violated. So I don't think it should be the same form. I don't know if I have the ability to speak directly to her. I'd rather that it come through you. But you indicated, did you not, Mr. Domzel, that there were some deficiencies in the complaint that have to be corrected. Is she aware that she's going to have to make those corrections and additions?
Yes. I think, as I understand what the complainant just indicated, she's going to restart the process, redo the form, make reference to the ordinance, and then resubmit it to the board. That's my understanding of, whether she chooses to do that or not, obviously is up to her, but we're just suggesting that is one, thing she may want to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Domzel. Thank you, Ms. Roboleski.
Okay, thank you,
you.
Mr. Thomas. Just from the chair, I just want to make sure that I'm correct. So if she's filing another complaint and she's specifically citing to violations within the ethics ordinance, does that change matters, Mr. Domzel? Does that still put it within the purview of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, or does that retain within the matter of this board? Because if she cites specific violations of the ethics ordinance that she sees to have been violated, then does that bring it back within this board's purview? Just correct.
I think we have the right the board has the right to be able to refer the matter out at any time. I mean, from a sequential point of view, I mean, we're doing the referral prior to the time that we have a completed application. So I think, at the end of the day, we're trying to provide justice, and but I think it does track sequentially that, we made the referral, we may or may not receive the revised and a new complete complaint. Yeah, I think it works sequentially.
Is there a reference number that when I file this new complaint that I can say in reference to complaint number 1, 2, 3, that way they can kind of attach the two together?
Mr. Domzel. that's going to go to Mr. Donzo. So
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm following the question exactly, but, you know, do you, Ms. Robluski, do you have a copy of the ordinance? It is available online.
I do, but when
Okay.
I filed the new complaint, would you like me to like put in this complaint so it doesn't get separated from the original one? So that way, I guess I can either send it straight to you, or I can send it how I did the first time through the ethics committee, through the email that, you know, was provided online, the WC ethics at Wayne County. But if there's like a reference number, so they know to attach this new form that'll have the ordinance written into it with the paperwork that you guys already have.
Yeah, that's a good question, I guess, in terms of whether there's a case number assigned to each complaint that comes in. I don't want to get too hung up on form. I mean, you can call it an amended complaint if you want, in reference to
Okay.
your complaint dated such and such a date, and I think that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Donzo. Thank you again, Ms. Robleski, for being here. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, which is item letter D. It's under new business. Item 1, we have an advisory opinion request from Ms. Doreen O'Brien. I believe everyone received a copy of her advisory opinion. If any board member has not received a copy, please let us know at this time. I do believe Mr. Donzo did review the advisory opinion request from Ms. O'Brien. And did sort of provide some feedback. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Donzo to address the opinion at this time. Mr. Donzo.
Yes.
You have the floor, sir.
Our office did receive a copy of the complaint. And there may be, I mean, there's some factual similarities perhaps to what we just talked about, but in this particular case, not only was there a failure to provide a specific citation to the ordinance, specifically what was alleged, I think there also were some questions whether or not, even if there were any, I mean, frankly, if the facts as alleged really would support a complaint at all. So we advised we wrote a letter to the complainant, Ms. O'Brien, explaining that we felt that really was not based upon what was presented. We really didn't feel it fit with any of the categories that are specifically set out. It's an ethics ordinance. We in so many words, not a misconduct ordinance. And I did see a response from her, thanking us for the response and indicating that she was going to pursue other alternatives, which we had pointed out in the letter. She's certainly free to do. So I'm not totally up to date, but I think the bottom line here is that specific complaint has been addressed. The complainant does understand that, her rights and is pursuing them in some other forum. So I think the matter is said, I guess more simply, perhaps I think this matter is resolved as far as the board is concerned, at least at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Donzo. And do you have any recommendation with respect at this time for this?
No, I think the Ms. O'Brien, I think, is certainly, if she wants at any point in time to come back, if she feels that she's not getting justice, I think, I think the next step would be to advise her to refile if she comes back to us, to refile the complaint and be more specific in terms of, where it ties into the ordinance. But I think that we would await any further communications from her.
Okay. Any comments from any board members with respect to the advisory opinion request from Ms. O'Brien? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the recommendation or to sort of table this matter and wait to see if something else, Ms. O'Brien sort of files another files a complaint, an official complaint, or to await any further communication from Ms. O'Brien.
I'll make a motion to table this matter until we get
Mr.
further
Schaefer.
information.
A second.
Schaefer, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. This matter is adopted. Moving on to the next item of our agenda, which is under letter E, which is such other matters as may properly be submitted before this board. At this time, are there any other matters before this board needs to address? One other matter from the chair is going to be generally, historically, we have taken the month of August off just so members can enjoy the rest of their summer and possibly take vacations and do what they need to do with their families before we get into the fall season. The chair is open if the board would like to continue that, and therefore we would move to have our next meeting in September. Not sure if we need a motion for that, but we could entertain the board. The chair will entertain a motion to sort of recess until September, and therefore we'll take the month of August off. If there's a motion for that, and the board, the chair will entertain that motion or any other similar motions.
Through the chair, this is Joe Slezak.
Yes,
A
Mr.
thought
Slezak.
a thought I had was, can we schedule out through the end of the calendar year? And then once we, if that's determined today, then we can give that information to our public information staff and post that on the website.
That's good. So, Mr. Slezak, can you advise this board on the calendar for through the end of the year for every third Wednesday of the month from September?
Every third Wednesday is available for the, through the end of the calendar year, September 15th, October 20th, November 17th, and if the board chooses to meet in December 15th. Those dates are all available.
So there's a few matters before this board, and we'll open this up in discussion. One is to recess for the month of August, and we'll pick up in the fall of September. Another is to adopt a fall calendar for the next 4 months that takes us straight into December to meet on the various dates that was just proposed: September 15th, October 20th, November 17th, and December 15th. So if there is any motions for either of those, the chair will entertain those motions.
I'll make a motion to,
I'll make a motion based upon the or I should say the request of Mr. Slezak.
Mr. Young.
September, October, November, and December, as indicated or as stated.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Young. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Seconded. Mr. Young, you made the motion. Do you want any discussion on the matter?
No, I think that's fine. If we decide not to meet in December, I would assume we would have the opportunity to address that in November. But we'll deal with that then.
Okay. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, indicate by saying no. Okay, the ayes have it. It's so moved. The motion carries, was adopted. That's scheduled for the fall term there, the fall season for this meeting. There's also a motion to recess for the month of August, or the chair will entertain a motion to recess for the month of August.
Make a motion to adjourn for August.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Lewis, for that second. Mr. Schaefer, would you like any discussion on the matter?
No,
This is
sir.
your motion. Okay, so all in favor of the motion to adjourn for the month of August, indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed indicate by saying no. Okay, the ayes have it. The motion carries. It is so adopted that we will adjourn for the month of August and resume in September. At this time, we're moving on to the next item. Unless there's any other such matters as are properly before this board, we're going to move on to the next item of our agenda, which is letter F. Any public comments at this time? So I'm going to open this up. Is there any public comments at this time from any members of the public that may have logged on? Okay.
Chair Pinkins, I did not receive any emails.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Condora. All right, if there's no public comments, then I'm going to move on to the last item of our agenda, which is letter G, which is adjournment. So the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll
Thank you,
second that
Mr.
motion.
Young. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Is there any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Mr. Young?
No, thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to adjourn this meeting indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. This assembly is adjourned until September 15th, 2021 at 9 a.m. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Great job.
Bye.
Take care. You too.
Bye.
Thank you.